And welcome everybody to the HBYOB BrewCast. With me is Chris. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, when was the last time that we actually did this show together? I feel like it's been forever, man.
I'd have to look through the archive. I
But isn't
don't
that why we're
remember.
doing this? Because,
It's
time to catch up, time to figure out, all right, like what's going on, like in terms of like what's going on in the brewing scene. Even like get a chance to talk about plans for brewing. Because I don't know about you, I haven't brewed since November. I think was the
yeah.
last time that I did anything. So it's like I need to get back on the game. So now would probably be the right time to discuss it and give me the energy to maybe throw together a recipe so I can head on down to HBYOB and actually start brewing again.
Yeah, I can honestly say I think as far as 2023 comes, I don't think I've brewed. I definitely know we haven't done a cast, anything. So
Yeah.
I named today's show Knocking the Dust Off because it's time to get back in the swing of things on this. Today is 2-2-2-3. 3 2s and a 3. So it's time to get going. The groundhog saw a shadow, so we got 6 more weeks of winter, even though I don't think he's ever not saw a shadow. So it is what it is. And we're out of, is it dry January?
Yeah, I think
Is
that's a
that a
thing,
thing?
right? Yeah, I've heard that's a thing.
I guess I don't know. I'm glad I made it. So I mean, I didn't participate, but I'm glad I made it.
Yeah.
And was kind of talking about some new beer styles, brewing techniques, yeast, anything like that. So
Mhm.
kind of kick the show off, kind of beer styles. I was researching, people who come into the store. One of the new beer styles is the cold IPA. Have you heard of that one?
I have not. I'm gonna like start googling that right now.
So from what I understand, the cold IPA is the fact they called it a cold IPA is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life because it's brewed as a lager and the A in IPA is ale. So already coming
Yeah.
off the rails. But from what I understand, it's basically like a Pilsen, very tough, strong Pilsen base. Now there are adjuncts in it to keep it light, kind of like a brewed IPA, kind of like lower body, but it's
Yeah.
supposed to be tons of aromatic hops, tons of juicy, flavorful hops.
What's up
I
my
don't
alley?
remember, but I would assume it's not a very bitter beer. So that's where the IPA comes from because they're trying to let you know, hey, there's a ton of hops in here, even though it's
Mhm.
not an ale and it's not bitter. So
Okay.
we won't even, we went there before. I won't go there again. But basically, you're going to use a lot of Pilsen malt, from what I understand, like flaked corn, flaked rice. Use a ton of hops late in the boil. And instead of an ale yeast, you're going to use a lager yeast. But they do one more thing that I learned, and that is they do it closer to a like kind of a California common, where you're using a lager yeast, but
Okay.
you're doing it closer to the ale temperatures.
So like
So
60 something, like lower 60s.
I'd say low 60s. Yeah,
Yeah.
low 60s is probably what we're talking. High 50s, low 60s.
Okay.
So I've had one. I forget who it was by. I've always liked IPLs, which is what I called them. So IPLs, I've always liked them. I do like a zombie dust style
Mhm.
recipe that I use a lager yeast instead of the ale yeast. So I get the beer style. It's pretty cool, but it's kind of like a hybrid of like a California Common meets a New England IPA meets
Yeah.
a
Well,
meets
I
like
was feeling like a the Anchor Steam or like, something along those lines. That's what I was kind of thinking, like while you were describing it.
so it's like an NEIPCL, right? New England, India Pale Common Lager.
Yeah.
That's what I'm renaming it. You know me, I love my acronyms. So
You're
that
not
it's
even remember the
in
acronym after we're done with the show.
in. I guess I understand now why they call it a cold IPA because that's much easier to remember.
Yes, yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's been a beer style. It's been kind of popular, even just from the grocery store because I haven't been purchasing or brewing as much beer as in the past. I'm doing an
Mhm.
oldie but a goodie tonight. I'm drinking the
Oh yeah,
Dogfish Head 60
DFH.
minute IPA.
Yes.
It's a beer that's been around a long time and still to this day that is one of my favorite IPAs on the market. But
Mhm.
I have seen nowadays you don't see as many. What was all the craze? Seltzers, or
Oh
you still
yeah.
see the seltzers, but now I'm seeing Mountain Dew makes a.
They make an
What are
energy
they
drink
calling
there?
these? No,
Oh,
it's an alcoholic beverage. Monster makes
um,
one.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I know Budweiser did like a whole series of like cola flavored. I don't know if they were calling them seltzers or what they were calling them, but it's. I mean, I'm assuming
drinks. That's what I got. That's the only other thing I think of, like that sort of thing.
I mean, I don't know. I've always thought energy drinks kind of tasted funny, and you just dealt with the funny taste because you got all the things that we thought we were supposed to have. That
I just keep thinking Four Loko. Anytime somebody says like energy drinks mixed with alcohol, that's the first thing that comes to mind is Four Loko.
But I do think that the oh wait, we got some comments here. I'm snoozing already. Hey Nicholas, hey Frank, how you doing? Hold on, I got to play catch up because I didn't have the comments turned on. Hey guys,
Black Check Lager though. Oh, okay. Looking that up too. I need ideas, so this is
so I need to try the Mountain Dew one, Frank, because that one sounds really good. Honestly, the Budweiser cola ones. No, so Four Loko is what you were talking about. I think the difference between those and this is all of these are taking the route of keeping the sugar and the carbs down. I kept seeing like 0 sugar on all of them.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of where like it's basically kind of what we were talking about where you're hybriding all of these different styles. I think the new thing now is to do like a Mountain Dew, a Monster. To this day, I don't think I've ever drank a Monster energy drink. I've definitely had Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
but, like Monster and basically these cola, but instead of like the Four Locos where they just sugared up, they were, if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I've had a Four Loko. Those were super, super sweet.
Oh yeah,
and they
literally
drank
I probably had one 20 years ago.
I've had one more recent than that, but they drank like battery acid.
Yep.
I mean, they were just screaming high in alcohol, if I remember correctly, like 12, 14% somewhere in there. And yeah, I don't miss them one bit. I know there was
my thing.
Well, they were popular when the caffeine in beers was real popular. And then that got to be, I don't want to use the word illegal, but you can't put caffeine in beer anymore because I guess college kids were drinking too much and getting into trouble and they didn't know that they were that intoxicated because the caffeine was picking them up. But so kind of like it seems to be the new style. I'm not seeing too many customers coming in like, hey, I want to do a Mountain Dew flavored drink at a homebrew scale. So I haven't seen that yet. I don't know if like the Mountain Dew and all those are affordable or expensive. So I don't know if like there'd be a big incentive to make them at home. Because I mean, shoot, like now that I've been drinking a little bit more store bought because I don't have a whole lot of homebrew on tap anymore, I need to get brewing.
Yeah,
I think last time I bought a 6-pack of beer was like $14. I
mean, that's what it is now. That's why I was like, dang man, like maybe I should try and get back into brewing or something like that.
Oh, Sparks! I forgot about those.
Yeah,
there was like B to the E. There was like B to the E. There was all kinds of like everyone jumped on the bandwagon of like energy drink type, but that went away. Juice, remember Juice?
Yes.
And then Colt 45 had the blast. Man, I drank all that nasty crap. I shouldn't say nasty crap. I mean, there's a right place and a right time for everything, but
sure, a card game.
I guess if I'm at a concert, I could see myself drinking like a Sparks or a Mountain Dew.
Maybe, yeah.
But I'm curious because Mountain Dew, like out of all the diet sodas, Mountain Dew to me is the least has that weird funky diet pop taste to it. So I think if I was going to try any of them, I think I would start off with the Mountain Dew ones.
That's not bad, yeah.
The Budweiser ones that I had, it was like a variety pack. I bought them for a party. And it was like cola, black cherry, orange cola, and I don't remember the last one was like Sprite, or like a 7-Up type lime. It was that was my least favorite. The orange one was pretty good, and the cola and the black, they were actually, believe it or not, I liked them better than I did any of the hard seltzers.
Okay,
it just wasn't the hard seltzer is just too light bodied for me. It just tastes like fermented sugar and with some flavoring in it, which I think that's kind of all it is.
Sometimes that's the point, I guess.
But brewing equipment wise, there hasn't been a whole lot of new innovation. I have been eyeballing. Spike now has all bottom drain for all their electric, all their pots and mash tuns and all that, which I keep saying I think that's going to be my last setup. I need to get those added to the website now that I think about it. But I think that would be, if you're going to do a system bigger than 5 gallons, having bottom drains would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
The steam condenser lids are really popular. for all the spike brew pots and whatnot. So company wise, I don't think there's been a whole lot new going out. Even yeast wise, the Kvike strains have kind of lost their staying
luster.
power a little bit. Yeah.
Those were like all the
People,
rage. What, like last summer, last spring?
yeah, yeah. Everybody was using them, it seemed like, and then once all like anything else, once all the other companies played catch up, then the rarity of it kind of went away.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeast wise, I'm trying to think. I feel like Lutra, which is a Kvike strain, is now offered in dry, which is really awesome because
Yeah.
everyone knows dealing with liquid yeast is a little temperamental. But that's really
And
all I got.
expensive.
What's that?
And expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, unfortunately, back to cost, everything's going up in price, and the gap between liquid and dry yeast, unfortunately, like on the specifically the Lucha strain, there isn't a huge price savings going with dry. It's more of a convenience and shelf life thing for it. So
Gotcha.
the Kvike strains are known to not need a huge pitch rate, that they just kind of do their own thing on their own. So,
That's
having to build a big starter on all that makes them nice. But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can't think of too much things going on with the store or anything. How about you? You have anything new going on? I know fantasy's football's towards the tail end. What's going
Yeah,
on with you?
exactly. And so that's really where my interest in getting back into brewing kind of picked up, because not writing as much with the football season coming to a close. Bengals season's over, so not paying as much attention to. I mean, I'll watch the Super Bowl or whatever. And since betting's legal in Ohio now, I might place a couple of bets like here and there, like on the game. But yeah, I think I was trying to put together a couple of recipes and trying to think through. And I wanted to talk with you about it a bit more tonight, about just given the fact that you opened the show saying that probably going to be another 6 weeks of winter, yada yada yada. I kind of like the idea of doing that cold IPA and seeing if there's a way that I can come up with that sort of recipe. But I guess around this time of year, like, what are folks like typically brewing? Like, what do you see folks coming into the store like asking to brew?
Right now, still a lot of like porters, California Commons. You don't see a whole lot, but I'm trying to really think. No particular recipe really stands out to me. We're going through a lot of like the darker grains, so I like a lot of porters, stouts, black IPAs, things of that nature, because we've been chugging through like black patent and chocolate malt, and roasted barley. Once the summer months hits, that's one of those things that we don't sell a whole lot of in comparison to now. A lot of Pilsner malt, so people are still doing like a lot of like German Pilsner styles, but nothing really stands out particularly. I don't see as many like I said, of the hard seltzers anymore as in the past. A lot of wine. A lot of people are doing wine right now.
Okay.
Kind of all over the place, to be honest with you. Nothing in particular stands out. Like I said, I'm even trying to think of like yeast wise. I mean, I guess I see a little bit less of like, honestly, a lot of the hazy styles right now is probably, I don't see as many of the hazy styles or even IPAs right now. People brewing some more of the classic styles.
Well, that doesn't help me, because I need something. I need like a style in order to kind of like build something off of. But I think with that cold IPA thing, just general guidance, might be able to come up with something like with that. That might be fun to brew.
Yeah, that's a really good. Frank has a really good question here. PBR hard coffee, does it have caffeine?
I didn't know.
I actually have had. Oh, it's actually pretty decent. I've had it.
What?
Out of like, yeah, it's truly coffee. Or it tastes just like coffee.
Those. Yeah.
Those are actually pretty good, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's like one of those things where because coffee's in it and coffee naturally makes caffeine, they get away with it. I guess like if you put tea in there, you can't really measure the caffeine per se, versus if you're just taking like caffeine extracted from a factory and putting it in a syringe and dumping it into each batch or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know the legality of it. I just know that Four Loko and Juice no longer have caffeine in
they
them.
went over the deep end, like when it came to that particular style. But now
there's a lot of like I've had a coffee stout. I like coffee, like beers, like coffee. I've had a coffee blonde, a coffee stout. I mean, those are. I mean, I like putting. But back to as homebrewers, we don't have to follow any rules like that. I mean,
Exactly.
I know like there's right now I've read a couple, or I've not read, I've seen a couple articles about now that like, and like a lot of the Western states, like cannabis is really popular now, and a lot of like beginning to become popular in the breweries, like we're in the legal states. But there's been, I mean, you name it, it's seems like it's been in beer. There was something I was trying to think of.
Well, Frank, I probably won't brew this, but I'll definitely see if I can pick up like they sell them in like 4-packs. Yeah, I might pick up a 4-pack of this PBR hard coffee. I'm intrigued.
My review was the first one was amazing. The second one was like all right, and the third one I was glad they only had a 4-pack because it just wasn't something that you could sit down and drink many. I mean, it's a one and done, and like it's a one and done drink. And I think I bought a 4-pack and like drank 2, and the rest of them are just in a fridge somewhere.
$11 for a 4-pack. All right. You could probably get me on one. I'll probably
try it once.
Yeah, I'll buy a 4-pack and just be like, all right, I'm good.
I know what you can do. Speaking of which, you brought me a Pliny.
I sure did.
And it drank
my other
my other
bottle like right here, man.
Talk about a beer that is, I mean, I still put that as like the best, possibly the best beer I've ever drank.
Because it doesn't make any sense for it to be that high ABV and still drink like it. To me, quite honestly, it drinks like it's maybe like just over 6%. I would put it at 6.5. If I were just doing like a blind taste test or something like that, I'd put it at 6.5 tops.
I forget what I was doing when I drank it, but I was like, you know what? I have that beer. I'm going to drink that beer. And I don't think it made it 5 minutes. I mean, I had that thing put away. I mean, it was like one of those beers you take a sip, like, oh my gosh, it's so good. And but next thing you know, it's like almost gone. You're like, oh crap.
See, and like I guess family announcement. Well, you know that my daughter is in tech school right now, and she's in the Air Force, but she's getting stationed out about an hour, Beale Air Force Base, so like an hour north of Sacramento.
Oh well,
Russian River, right nearby.
What city is Russian River in?
That's a good question. I don't know specifically like which city it is, but I mean we got the internet.
It's also probably on the bottle itself that you just said. Oh, goodness. There's a lot of writing on this bottle. Windsor.
Yeah.
Santa Rosa and Windsor, California, unless they must have 2 locations.
Yeah, they got 2 locations.
This is actually kind of funny. Did you know all the way around there's like a whole story that's actually kind of funny?
Yeah, I haven't bothered to read it, but yeah. And Frank, what is this killer brownie that you're talking about? Dude, I'm trying to get into shape, man. Like I need to, I let the winter months get a hold of me, drank a little extra, ate a little extra, and you're talking about this killer brownie over at Warped Wing. That's not helping me, brother.
This is pretty cool. Have you read it? Does not improve with age. Hoppy beers may not. I can't. Oh my gosh, am I getting that old, Chris? I almost can't see anymore.
Yeah, you are getting.
Does not improve with age.
Look at that thing.
Hoppy beers are not meant to be aged. Keep away from heat. If you must sit on eggs, but not on Pliny. It's kind of cool. It says a bunch of stuff all the way around. I won't bore y'all with all of it, but it's pretty cool. If anyone ever gets a chance, that is 100% my top 3 best beers of all time.
Oh yeah, I
can't even think of like any others that are even within the same realm right off the top of my head. Anyone out there listening, post your favorite beers out there. I'd like to know. Killer brownie from Warped Wing. I actually had a killer brownie for the first time ever the other day, and it comes in this like box like this big, and it's got like 5 little stripes. You're like, oh my gosh, and each stripe's only like, I know that the portions it looks like a Kit Kat bar, and like the portions, you're like, oh my gosh, why are they even splitting it up? You take like 3 bites, you're like, now I understand why that thing is rich.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can imagine Warped Wings, because the Warped Wing also does the Irma's Secret, which I got that wrong. I was going to say Esther Price is going out of business, but it's not Esther Price. It's Mike Sells Potato Chips.
They're going out of business?
I don't know if they're getting bought by someone, but they're closed. So stock up on your Mike Sells chips, because if they come back, I don't think it's. I don't know if someone bought it. I'm getting mixed, or I have like an inkling of the truth. So you'd have to fact check that. But I did read somewhere that they are closing. I don't know whether that means someone bought them or what the deal is, but I heard that they are closing.
So now I got another idea of something to try and make. I probably won't be able to match whatever Warped Wing did, but thanks. Thanks, Frank. I'm gonna have to check this one out too. Killer brownie.
I agree with you, Frank. The Esther's Secret, they change it from year to year. However, and I'm not a huge fan of that particular beer myself. However, if you get a chance to get it in the barrel aged version, that is actually very good.
Mm.
They do like I don't know if it's higher alcohol or what it is. Like I said, I have my memory on details is pretty slim, but I do know they do it like basically Esther's Secret, but then they do like a barrel aged version, and that one's actually pretty darn good.
Okay. See, I'm gonna have to.
Nicholas, I think Nicholas is talking about mic sales. I heard they are closing and looking for someone to continue to make their products. Yeah, it's probably going to be like a Hostess when they, we went a little while there. We couldn't get a Twinkie or whatever Hostess.
Oh yeah, and then just have somebody else do the distro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so you're ready to brew.
Oh yeah.
I think we'll have to do something. I've actually even had a few customers who have either bought or had brewing systems that have been asking me questions about it. So I'd like to try to potentially, or if you guys get a chance, put in the comments or email me or something if you guys are interested. We used to do brewing classes a long time ago, but as the years progressed, we just got fewer and fewer requests for them. I think just because there's so much good information on YouTube and friends and everything else. But so I have a lot of people who are either running into like some of the same issues, or they'll have, what they call silly questions or whatever. So I think I would like to do, because all the classes I did in the past were like basic brewing classes, like brewing 101, like, how to add yeast and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But not how to add yeast, but like what yeast does, basically brewing for the first time. But I think I would like to do it to where, if we could get enough people, I would have no problem doing it, where I basically sit down, and it'd be a long class because it'd be all grain brewing. But basically where we could sit down, because I think over the years when you do anything for a long time, there are some of the small details that you forget,
the fundamentals
that you forget you have knowledge of, that you just skim right past when you're talking to people, because it just becomes muscle memory and you forget about them. So I think it would be cool to do something like that. Like I said, it just would require enough interest, because to do it like one-on-one would be difficult. Because like I said, you're talking 4 or 5 hours. So it'd be a long day, and there's times in brewing where, you're just sitting and waiting. So I think to do it as like a group where, we could do a bottle share in between, or, talk about beer recipes. We're not two of us just sitting watching water or wort come to a boil.
Yeah, I think like one aspect I know for me that I think would be kind of fun to do. I don't know how you'd be able to set it up, but it's always like for me, it's like during the mash, and you want to try and hit like a specific you're aiming to get a specific like OG, and like because you get your recipe, and like normally they provide if it's like a paper measurement, or not paper measurement, but if the recipe is running on paper, they normally give you your measurements, right? They'll tell you what your OG FG is supposed to be, like all your targets and all that. And with so many calculators available nowadays, if you put in what your grain bill is, you should be able to get those measurements too. But what if you're off? And also, why are you off? And getting into things like, your mash temperature and all that, and trying to set up like what these variations in temperature and all that, how they can throw you off. And not to say that your beer is going to be absolutely terrible or anything like that, but just walking people through just like that particular portion of brewing, where it's like, which is obviously like one of the more important parts, because you're trying to extract your fermentable sugars and all that. But just like that portion of it, to let people know, all right, well, because what I think we had this conversation maybe a year or so ago, and I think you had updated both myself and Mark when we were on the show later. It's like kind of debunking the theory of you don't have to have it at like 155, 153, or like all that other stuff, but trying
to like
a
secondary fermentation. There's
the
whole rehydrating your yeast. There's a bunch of stuff that you don't have to do, that you can do, but you don't have to do. Someone mentioned about there being brew clubs around. There are plenty of brew clubs. However, most of those brew clubs kind of have the understanding you already know how to brew. So a lot of those are, or not that you know how to brew, but they do more like, hey, we're all going to brew a cold IPA, and then we're going to drink them and discuss how ours were different. I've been to enough brew clubs that there's generally not a whole lot about the process. It's more about like different beer styles, different events.
It's getting into the weeds,
or kind of like a bottle share, but or like diving in deep into topics. Like
Water
yeast health,
chemistry.
viability versus vitality and things of that nature versus just like I truly had someone I think like 2 days ago where he continuously is getting stuck mashes and he'll message me and like, hey, I'm having this. So at first it was like, well, are you doing a recipe with a lot of wheat? It's like, no. Okay. Are you maybe I'm crushing it too fine for your brewing system. Have me crush it more coarse.
Yeah.
And then he came in, I crushed it more coarse, and he texted me again and was like, happened again. It took like an hour and a half for the water to go through. And I'm like, yeah, that's way too long based on your brewing setup. And it's difficult because it's like, or like, oh, that my next recommendation is like add some rice hulls to it. So it's like, okay, we've crushed it coarser. We didn't do a lot of wheat. We've added rice hulls, but you're still having that issue. And I guarantee you if it was one of those things where if he came in or I just saw him brewing, I go, this is where it's happening.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's back to the kind of like that muscle memory thing where it's just like, I've been brewing for so long. It wasn't even something that crosses my mind to suggest because I don't know that I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Like anything else, like you ever drove home and you get home, you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah, I don't even remember getting in my car.
I don't really know how I got here.
Yeah.
Same kind of premise. And I think that by doing a class like that, one, I've always told people, like when it comes to like classes, I always say, brew your first batch of beer, then go take a class because your questions are going to be much better than if you just start asking questions and you've never actually brewed. Once you start being hands-on with it, or maybe that's just how I learn best. Once I start getting hands-on with something, I learn from my mistakes after a couple of tries.
Mistakes plural, like more than one mistake. I need more than one mistake.
But I mean, perfect example. I used to have an old school mash tun, and it's back to this could be completely coincidental. I've probably told the story 100 times. I kept getting stuck mashes. And I did everything. I'm on Google. I'm on forums. I'm asking people. I'm like, every freaking, and it was crazy. It was when I upgraded to having I upgraded my Coleman cooler. This is how long ago it was.
That blue one? Or no, was it blue one?
It was blue. Yeah,
I remember. Yeah.
It used to have a stainless steel braid from a toilet. This is how long I've been brewing. I used to have a stainless steel braid from like a toilet supply line and they cut the ends off.
Yeah.
I mean,
I had
this is the good old days. We MacGyvered everything.
Yes, sir.
And then I've upgraded to a false bottom. And as soon as I upgraded to the false bottom, I went from a square cooler to a like cylinder cooler. And every freaking time, well, I did it a few times with the stainless steel. Or no, I bought the false bottom, got it set up, got a stuck mash. Like three out of 3 times I got a stuck mash. And I finally put that stainless steel cooler braid from the other one, worked perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, my mentality was like, well, it's the false bottom. They're junk, right? But it's like, and then my brain logically was like, well, this is a popular item that's manufactured specifically for brewing. They obviously work for somebody. It's probably you, Joey, that's not doing it right. So I hit the forums. I used rice hulls. I did everything. Long story short, one day I poured too much water in there and opened the valve because I poured too much water in there. So I was getting some of the water out. And I heard this gluk, 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 gluk. And I'm like, there's an air pocket. There's like an air pocket in there. Didn't get a stuck mash. Then the next brew, I was like, before I throw the grains in there, I'm just going to open this valve to get, that air pocket that's in there. Because I was pouring the water in with the valve closed. Because how many times you pour back to, you learn from your mistakes. I can't tell how many times my valve would be open. I'd pour my brew water and all of a sudden hear water shooting out of the ball valve. So I've always remembered to shut the ball valve before I put the water in. Anyway, so I started just getting in the habit of just taking a pitcher and opening the water just to get that little air pocket out of there. Never had I bet you I brewed 50 batches, didn't have a single stuck, or I'm probably over exaggerating. Never had a single stuck mash ever since that day. Yeah. And so it's like back to, it's like one of those things where if say the person I'm talking about had that same setup and we brewed together, I just opened that ball valve and he'd go, what are you doing? Or vice versa. When he would go in there, I'm like, did you get that air pocket out of there? It's just one of those things where you don't think you do it, but you do.
I've got a $1 million business idea for you. You know how if you have like a problem with your computer or whatever, and like say like you're working at a regular company or whatever, and they've got like an IT department, and they'll just be like, all right, well, let me just log into your machine show me, they can just like see your screen and then just like see what you're doing, whatever, and blah, blah, and then they can fix it. What if you do the same thing for brewing, where it's like somebody like, on camera. So if like I was brewing like right over here, and then I was just like, hey, I'm getting a stuck mash. You'd be like, well, show me what's going on. I could just like, move the camera around, just be like, oh yeah, it's just like right here, and do something like that. Where it's like you could be like they could just show you like as something's happening, and just be like, yeah, this is the problem, and you can be like, okay, well, is it this? Is that? Did you try this? Just almost like in real time support. So almost like an IT type of thing.
I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, kind of like live chat on a website when people have questions. Anymore, I can't stay on websites. And watch, I'll end up doing it one day to my website. But it's like as soon as you log in the website and you're trying to search for something, it's like, bloop, would you like to earn 10% off? Bloop, can I help you? Bloop, don't finish here. And then you don't even, because they got all the pop-ups, you're like, I'm not checking out because I know I'm going to get emailed. I'm going to get emailed a 10% coupon code if I wait, 5 minutes. It's like all this automated stuff where it's finally like, I just want to get on here and order some whatever and move on with my life.
Yeah.
But I like the idea. And the other thing I was thinking, because we've talked about this a bunch, I think possibly because of 32-bit or one of the companies was possibly even just doing that brew day like on Twitch or YouTube, where it would be a long ass, 4-hour brew day, to where we could live stream it all. I don't think it's something that you necessarily would want to go back and revisit, watch us sit around and stir beer and drink beer for 4 or 5 hours. Maybe we could edit it down or something, but I do think there's a lot of knowledge to be gained there. And now that we've been in business now that I've had the store for 6 years, and I think I was brewing probably close to 10 years before that. My math is off on that, but it is amazing how much I have learned just over the years of being there. And like I said, so much stuff that I think in ways it's more difficult for me to give helpful information just because, like I said, I just don't think.
Yeah.
Like back to some things just become automatic to me now that I think if like back to whether, because I think that's also the same thing. Like if a customer comes in who wants to, and we did a class and I just want to, and I'm really bad at not taking over and just like, here, let me stir it. Let me do this. Let me clean it. Let me do all that. But just like, here, you do your thing and I'll, let me smack your hand, not literally, but like smack your hand. We're like, don't do that. Like, that's probably what's happening. I think that's easier to troubleshoot where they're having frustration because like any other hobby, like brewing, I don't know if you ever went through it, but I was pretty close to just being frustrated right out of the gate of not liking home brewing.
Oh, same.
My problem was pretty simple. I liked Coors Light and I wanted to make Coors Light with a Mr. Beer kit. So, I mean, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, I was the beer snob, like right out of the gate. So I was like, oh, so, I like Sierra Nevada. I'm going to make a Sierra Nevada. Why does this not taste like Sierra Nevada? Like I need this to match like the things that I like to drink.
I had the same problem, except I wanted to brew styles of beer that after all this time, I'm not sure I could brew today. Like I said, if you're wanting to make a Coors Light, I'm not sure even me without tons and tons and tons. I guess the bigger thing would be, why would I even want to try now? It's back to after, if you factor time and everything, I want to brew. That's the other thing. Like I want to get back into like really brewing a lot of beers, but I kind of hit that. I kind of went through a couple phases with brewing where at first it was just cool. I made alcohol. And then after that, it was, okay, I discovered craft beer because of home brewing. It was like, oh, wow, I can make these craft beer. It just seems so strange to me. Like, wait a minute. The craft beer is easier to make than adjunct lagers from like, your Bud Miller Coors. It just seems so strange to me. And I learned, it was like, I was probably using ale yeast. I know I was fermenting it at ale temperatures. I didn't know anything about cold crashing. I mean, and even those breweries are, they're filtering it and pasteurizing. I mean, there's just, and they're certainly not using like priming sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and back to, I think Budweiser uses 6-row barley. I clearly wasn't. And so at the time, and so, I mean, they're just those factors. But when I found craft brewing, and then I was like, oh, now I got to brew all these different styles of beer. And then I kind of went through that second wave of like trying all the different beer styles. And then my third wave was like, okay, now I know what I like. I will go buy things that I want to try, and I'm going to brew things that I like.
Yes.
And I think that's when I really like, I think that's when I opened the store. That's when brewing became very serious to me. It was like, okay, I know what I like, and I feel like I can brew a better representation of that based on my taste buds than a lot of the competition, because I'm starting to learn what the ingredients, how they react, what they taste like. But I'm so burnt out on that now. I'm back to, I think, kind of like, let's set the trends. Let's like back to like, that's the reason why I've always loved being a home brewer, trying different ingredients, trying different beer styles, because now I'm getting burnt out on drinking IPAs all the time. You know, when you go to craft brew around here, it's like, which IPA would you like? Is might as well be what they say. I mean, I hate to say it. I get why they do it. I totally get it. Because they're in the business of making money, and IPAs are probably one of the more popular beer styles, and I love them myself. I mean, I'm not acting like I'm drinking one right now. But my point is, like, I think I want to go back to like, I think I want to do, I don't think I've ever done a Kentucky Common. I don't think I've ever brewed a really good California Common, because some of those beer styles that I tumbled over, I don't know if it was I wasn't good at brewing, or I just hadn't grown a palate for those beer styles yet. Like just recently, I started liking saisons. I used to hate saisons, so it's like I brewed like a couple saisons ever. And so at the time, I was like, "Oh, this turned out terrible." I'm not sure I knew what a saison was supposed to taste like when I brewed one. So I think I want to go back and revisit a lot of those beer styles that I kind of glossed over, because at the time I didn't like them. Well, I haven't brewed saison in over a decade. I can promise you that. And so it's like I want to go back and do that, which, like I said, back to, I think we want to work more on getting some more recipe kits there in the store and do some interactive things like that. Like I said, nowadays it just seems with so much internet, Facebook and all that, it's not as much of a gathering thing anymore. Like we tried to do a bottle share, and that didn't really work out very well. And I used to do home brewing classes. As the years progressed, it's crazy. As we got more and more customers, the classes went down more and more and more. It was so crazy. Like people coming through. Oh, you stall. I was going to say, man, I'm putting you to sleep. But
was it my camera?
You're like this. Like, man, I'm putting Chris to sleep.
Like, well, thanks everybody for coming out to the show.
Chris is now snoring Z's.
So who makes a good cold IPA though? Back to what we were talking about earlier, because that is a really good idea. And I try and do the same myself so that I do have some sort of like reference point. Yeah, because like that pumpkin beer that I like to make, I've sampled I don't know how many different pumpkin beers, everything from that pumpkin Southern Tier 1 to whatever, but yeah, if I could find a good one of those, like whoever makes a good cold IPA, if anybody knows of one, I'll see if I can go pick one up at like Kroger's or something like that, and just to get a good reference point.
Like I said, it could be kind of like the brewed IPA. It looks like what's the one that does that watermelon beer? You would like the can art. What is 21st Amendment?
Oh yeah,
they do a cold IPA. That's still, you could probably get. I know they're
21st
normally Amendment here in Ohio.
That's fairly common.
So I would say that might be something you can find. And no, I have not brewed that blonde ale. But
brew free or die cold IPA, huh? All right.
Like I said, honestly, the brewed IPA I really liked, and it was a beer style that it kind of came and went pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And hopefully, and I have a feeling this one may not be much different, because like I said, it's technically an IPL, but just not bitter. In my opinion, it's an IPL. It's not bitter with adjuncts.
It looks pretty. Got a little amber color to it, clear. Does. I mean, it looks pretty. All right, I'm sold.
Kentucky Common is kind of like a cream ale, but with a little bit darker grains and some adjuncts in it as well. So yeah, I mean, of course, as more I get deeper in with the BJCP, of course, I want to brew beers that don't even fit their style guidelines at all. Because why would I color inside the lines?
I don't.
Yeah. So other than I'm trying, like I said, equipment, everything. I mean, honestly, we've been just kind of rocking and rolling, looking for the spring to come along. So that's usually when people really start brewing, once the weather gets nice. And that damn groundhog had to see his shadow for can you name a time in history where the groundhog didn't see his shadow? Why don't we just say there's 6 more weeks of winter, or we just say winter lasts till this long and just be done with it. But
there had to have been some degenerate out there like betting on him to not see his shadow or something like that. What would the? Well,
I mean,
I'd have to know like
I
what
think
would the
I would
odds?
give it. I think I would give it like at least 10-1 odds because I guarantee you it doesn't see its shadow. Name a time ever the groundhog didn't see his shadow.
I don't remember. I think anytime that I've remembered or even like caught it on the news or something like that, it's always seen its shadow. So I'm saying somebody probably had to have laid, put a couple bucks down there. Probably had good odds.
I mean, sports betting is groundhog betting part of sports betting?
I'd have to get like I don't know.
Now that's legal in Ohio.
Check my DraftKings, sportsbook app and see groundhog see its shadow.
So we're gonna wrap things up here. I did want to say, okay, and you know me. What are I got a question for you, but first I want you to give me odds. What are the odds you think that I know who's going to the Super Bowl this year? Being that I know that the Super Bowl is the next football game that's going to be played. What are your odds that I know who's going to the Super Bowl?
I give it 5-1.
That I don't know?
Yeah, I give it 5-1 that you don't know.
So I know the Kansas City Chiefs are going.
Okay.
Because they beat the Bengals.
But yeah, that should have been the caveat. I would say you probably knew at least one of the teams, but I doubt that you know the NFC team.
Buffalo?
No, Buffalo's AFC.
All right. Well, there
and
you
Cincinnati
go.
beat Buffalo the week before. Yeah, it's the Eagles.
Just, I already said the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, no, it's not. That was like the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Chiefs are playing the Chiefs.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Well, the way the referees are, they might as well play themselves, from what I heard.
Much.
But I won't go there because
it's a conspiracy.
I'm sure I'm going to piss people off because I don't follow sports. So you know me, I just like to razz. There you go.
Conspiracy.
But with that, who do you have to take the ship?
Eagles win.
Eagles to win it.
Yeah, Eagles. The line I thought I think Eagles right now are like +1.5 or no -1.5 if I'm remembering correctly.
That's it.
I think. I could check though.
While you're doing that,
Vegas Insider.
We went
Eagles -1.5.
Eagles minus. It's always backwards.
So it means Eagles are favored.
Yeah, but they're minus. It's so like
they're giving the minus is they're giving a point. Yeah.
So that being can you do fantasy football for just the Super Bowl, or is that like a whole season thing? How is that?
Yeah, you can do like they do showdown slates where showdown is basically like you just pick like five guys and then it's basically like whoever gets the most points or whatever. Like after that, they still have a salary and all that. But I'm more interested in doing like prop betting and all that. That's much more fun for me anyway.
What's the odds on the heads or tails on the coin flip?
Ooh, I'd have to check.
I'm just joking. It's gotta be 50-50, bro.
No, because guaranteed somebody will have looked up the historical, like how many
and
times
the coin
the
that
Super
they're
Bowl,
using, and there's more silver on one side than the other.
Oh man, like you have no idea. Like the stupidest, like the bets that you think would be just like, there can't be any juice on this. It should be just like 50-50. But somebody will have done some sort of analysis to say like, because this person's doing this and they're doing this thing, they're using this, I'll take I'll give you +110. That's like, all right, man. Like,
so can you bet
later,
on
Frank? Thanks, brother.
So can you bet on what the team's going to choose?
No, I don't know
because that's a good one for me. Because I'm going to go because that I can see where the odds get changed because they always say heads. Let's face it, they always say heads.
I thought it was tails. The only tails never fails.
I always call tails, and it seems like it never wins. But so you get what I'm trying to say. Forget what the coin actually does. I want to bet on what the team's going to say.
Oh, okay. There got to be some book that will allow you to do that. I mean, if they will allow you to bet on how long the national anthem is, there's got to be something.
But can you do all that in the state of Ohio now?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Or is it just the game?
No, I would think all of that. Because it's not just specific providers. It's not like it's just like FanDuel and like the big ones.
Sports betting, the reason why it became legal in Ohio is because it is technically it is a skill game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not skill if you're choosing heads or tails.
Well, it's 50-50, so it's like,
All right, well, there goes my long-winded thing. But since you are in the fantasy football industry. Tell everybody where they can find out about fantasy football for you. So when they're ready for next year's season, who to listen or where to listen.
Oh, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Allen, FFWX. I'm keeping a low profile for the time being. I'm doing as little as possible after writing 5 articles a week for about 4 months. But yeah, once things kick off, like for next season, probably like after the actual NFL draft, which is in like the April-ish timeframe, you'll see me back on social media for a bit.
Sounds good. I thank you for your time today, Chris. And that will complete today's episode. Hopefully, we get on a track now that Chris isn't tied up with fantasy as much. When is the Super Bowl? Is it this Sunday, next Sunday? When is
it? Yeah, not this coming Sunday, but the one after.
So, wait a second. So, it means I'll probably be working that day. What time does it start?
The 12th.
What time does it start?
I don't know. We're at 6.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought football started like 1 o'clock.
Well, yeah, normal.
Okay,
on normal
you guys
Sundays.
are learning how. You guys have learned how bad I am at this. I won't even embarrass myself anymore. Thanks you all for listening today, and we'll post next time when we're going to be live. Have a good one. Cheers.